You are sitting in church, and the worship music is playing. You are trying to connect, trying to mean the words you sing, but a quiet voice in your mind keeps interrupting. The voice tells you that you don't belong here. It reminds you of your past mistakes and your current struggles. It claims that people like you cannot call God their Father. The worst part is that you don't argue with it. Somewhere deep down, you believe it. You stand there going through the motions, looking like everyone else on the outside. But you feel like an outsider on the inside. You feel like you snuck into a room you were never invited to, and at any moment, someone will tap you and tell you to leave. Here is what you need to understand. That voice is not your conscience, it is not God, and it is not humility. It is a lie that you have mistaken for truth. By the end of this, you will see where that lie came from. You will see why it has no legal ground and what God actually says about who you are right now. Let me describe the logic your mind is running. It sounds like this: a real child of God wouldn't struggle like this, wouldn't have done what I did, and would feel close to Him. Because you struggle and feel distant, you have quietly concluded that the title doesn't apply to you. You haven't stopped believing in God, but you've stopped believing you belong to Him. That is a completely different crisis, and it is far more common than anyone talks about. Disqualification always sounds reasonable, like self-awareness or being honest about yourself. But look at the fruit. Disqualification keeps you at a distance from God. It makes prayer feel pointless, turns church into a performance, and scripture into a reminder of your failure. You start attending without engaging, reading without receiving, and praying without expecting an answer. You have decided that God is merely tolerating you rather than loving you. That quiet conclusion is one of the most effective weapons the enemy has ever used against a believer. He doesn't need you to walk away from God, just to keep your distance. Scripture is clear. God never condemns you away from Himself, even when He corrects you. We need to go to the verse that settles this, not as a platitude, but as a legal document. John 1 verse 12 says, "Yet to all who did receive Him, to those who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God." I want you to stay in that verse for a moment. There is a word in there that most people skip over. The word is right. In the original Greek, it is exousia. It means authority, legal standing, a granted permission that cannot be revoked by circumstance. He didn't give you a feeling or a certificate that expires when you sin. He gave you a right. Rights are not emotional. They don't fluctuate based on your performance, and they aren't cancelled by your worst day. When your country gives you a legal right, it doesn't disappear if you have a bad week. It doesn't vanish because you feel unworthy. It stands because it was granted, not earned. God gave you the right to be called His child the moment you received Him. Not the moment you became good enough, or the moment you stopped struggling. The moment you received Him. Your feelings about that right do not change the right itself. So what happens when a believer doesn't know this? What does a Christian look like who has the right but doesn't know they have it? They pray, but they don't expect to be heard. They worship, but they keep one eye on the door. They serve, but it's driven by fear of being cut off, not love for a father. They read promises and think, that's for someone else. Every blessing feels borrowed, every answered prayer feels like luck, and every quiet season feels like punishment. Because they are not living from the right, they are living beneath it. Carrying what God already carried, paying what Jesus already paid, earning what was already freely given. The enemy loves this because a believer who doesn't know their rights will never step into their calling. They will hover at the edge of everything God has for them, close enough to see it, but too disqualified in their own mind to reach for it. But here is what changes everything. You cannot live above what you believe about yourself. If you believe you are a sinner on probation, you will live on probation. If you believe you are a child with full legal standing, you will live like one. The right was granted. Now you have to decide whether you are going to walk in it. Why does the lie feel so convincing? Because most believers are living with an orphan spirit. An orphan doesn't have a father, so an orphan earns his place, performs for approval, and lives in constant fear of being sent away. And here is the tragedy. Many Christians got adopted, but never stopped living like orphans. They know the theology, they can quote the verses, but their internal operating system still runs on the old code. I have to earn this, I have to be good enough. One more failure and the door closes. But Galatians 4 verse 7 says, "So you are no longer a slave, but God's child. And since you are his child, God has made you also an heir." An heir does not earn the inheritance. An heir receives it because of who their father is, not because of what they have done. The orphan spirit tells you, "Look at what you did." Your father says, "Look at what I did." Here is the question you need to sit with. What would it actually take to disqualify you? Because John 1 verse 12 says the right was given to all who received him. Past tense. Done. Granted. For you to be disqualified, one of two things would have to be true. Either God made a mistake when he granted it, and God does not make mistakes. Or you would have to unreceive him. You would have to look at what he did on the cross and say, "I reject that completely. I want nothing to do with it." Is that what you are doing? Is that what is happening when you fall into sin or feel distant? No. You are here. You are watching this. You are fighting. A person who has unreceived Christ does not fight. They do not grieve. They do not lie awake wondering if they belong to God. Your wrestling is not evidence of disqualification. It is evidence of belonging. Here is the truth you need to carry out of this video. You do not feel like a child of God because you have been agreeing with the wrong voice. Not God's voice, not Scripture's voice. The voice of a lie that has dressed itself up as humility and convinced you that staying small is the same as staying holy. It is not. God did not give you a right so you could spend your life questioning whether you have it. He gave it to you so you could walk in it, pray from it, live from it, fight from it. Here is what that actually looks like. It means you come to God after you fall, not because you feel worthy, but because the right doesn't require you to feel worthy. It means you read the promises in Scripture and you let them land on you, not on some imaginary version of yourself who has finally gotten it together. It means when the voice says you don't belong here, you don't argue with your feelings. You argue with a legal document. You say, John 1 verse 12. He gave me the right. Past tense. Done. I am not leaving. Stop waiting to feel like his child. Start acting like one. Because the feeling follows the decision, not the other way around. Go to the comments right now and write this: I am a child of God. Not because you earned it, but because he said so. Write it out. Let your own mind see it. Let the enemy see it. Because the moment you agree with God about who you are, the lie loses its power. You are not disqualified from being a child of God. You never were. Now walk like it. You are not walking this path alone. If you want to go deeper into God's truth and stop swimming on the surface, hit subscribe right now. We are building a remnant of believers who refuse to sleepwalk through life. Join us.